All right, folks. Welcome back to episode 8 of the CGT podcast. What is up, Rob?
What's going on, Tom?
How was the weekend?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. Watched a little golf. Got to see some family. That's about it.
Well, that wasn't about it.
Oh, well, I didn't know if you got to play some golf in the fairway behind you.
That's right. We had a little day.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, WGT wasn't working. For those, I'm sure there's some SkyTrack guys out there, but so you guys know WGT is the other affiliate of SkyTrack, and that's like the app where you get all the courses and you could play, Pebble and all these different par threes. Anyways, that app was hung up, so we basically sat and played target golf. There's different kinds of games inside the SkyTrack app, so at least we had that. But yeah, Robin, the boys were over Saturday night, and we had a good time.
Yeah, felt good to swing the club.
Yeah, how about it?
I did like picking yardages and fine tuning that as much as you could.
Yeah. There was a lot of good stuff in there, man.
Minus the spray out shots by Sweens.
Oh yes, Sweens is dialed. He also had a couple hosels.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, we had fun. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's literally the exact reason I got it. Not the only reason, obviously, to have the game improvement aspect of it, but especially in the wintertime like this, to have buddies come by. And I mean, we're older, it's not like we're doing anything anyways. So,
right.
Get some guys together, play a little golf in the garage, and call it a day.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
like I said, it felt good to swing a club. So
speaking of golf, did you catch any of the Hero?
Yeah, I watched a little bit. Saturday. Caught when Colin chipped in for that eagle.
Yeah.
And then I watched some of it yesterday, where I turned it on. I couldn't believe how what did he have, a triple bogey and then a double bogey?
Yeah, yesterday was wild.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Absolutely wild. We had guys.
I like Victor too.
Yeah, love Victor.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a hard guy not to like.
Right.
Yeah, yesterday was wild. We had guys playing the wrong tees. We had guys, guys duffing chips. We also, did you see Sam Burns? He busted out the high burrito.
Yeah, I did. I thought of you right away when I saw that.
Oh,
that false front got him.
Yeah, about 3 times.
Yeah.
So,
no, I was laughing at. Did you see Spieth and Stenson's interview afterwards?
Yeah, gold. It was unbelievable. Stenson is hilarious. I just find all those Euros to have a really good sense of humor.
Their social media is on point, man.
Yeah. Their
little skits they do is great.
Right. I always love their stuff around majors.
I love the hole-in-one challenge when they do that. When they just sit there and knock 500 balls or whatever it is.
Right. I think the only person to do that with them was JT. I remember he did that with Rory. Remember that one?
No, I don't think I caught that one.
It was a pretty good one. But yeah, I mean, Stenson's hilarious. Yesterday it was chaotic. There was things going on all day, and the finish was crazy. I can't believe Morikawa shot +4.
Wait, what? You went 41 on the front nine, right, or something like that?
Yeah, he ended up shooting +4 with a 4 or 5 shot lead going in.
Yeah, because he usually had 19, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then everybody mentioned.
Here we go.
What's that?
I know where you're going. Are you talking about the PNC?
No. I was talking about Morikawa getting engaged and people.
Oh yeah. Just the same thing that happened with Jordan. Yep.
Yeah, right. And then I saw another good one about your boy Tiger. Somebody was like, "Yeah, these comparisons as of late with Morikawa and Tiger, after yesterday, don't put Morikawa in the same conversation as Tiger."
Right.
So I was dying laughing at that. No, but now that you mention it, I'll go there about the PNC.
Oh no, yeah. Well, that was because I kept on showing him hitting some balls yesterday again in his Sunday red, and then they kept on. But they said that if he could take a cart, right, he'll play.
Yeah,
he'll try to play.
Dude, he practiced 4 out of the 5 days. I didn't know. I didn't know he was like that back into playing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he made it seem like he was just hitting, you know, what
Tips him. Yeah.
exactly
Right.
what he did or exactly what he said, hitting giggles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't know he was, you know, and then that they showed the video of, you know, full swing driver. I'm like, man, he's pretty close.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
just it's crazy to think about where he came from to doing that already.
right, right.
Fanboy or not, that's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't even imagine like, you know, what is this? This has got to be like the guy's 7th rehab. Like to
I
just
think they said on it was his 10th surgery, I think.
it's insane. I mean, can you imagine just keep getting knocked down, having to get back up, knocked down, you know, having to basically train yourself to do everything all over again? I mean, obviously not as severe, but like mentally, that's got to be just like a huge. And I think that kind of speaks to what we were talking to last episode. Is like he seems like more at peace, and he's kind of just like, well, you know, maybe if I don't climb the top this time, like that's fine.
Right.
So, yeah, but I'm pumped. I think he's definitely going to play in the PNC.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, if he's practicing this much and, you know, especially like you said, if he's able to take a cart, I think he's going to be there for sure. All right, Rob, we got Mr. Bryan Tweed in the waiting room here. We're going to let him in.
Sounds good.
Let him in. Hey, Bryan, how are you?
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear us all right?
I can hear you just fine.
Awesome.
How you doing?
How you doing, Robert?
So, Bryan, we all know you on Twitter as, you know, at Bryan Tweed 16. Tell us a little bit about the quest to play 1,000 courses before you die. And then also, I noticed that you are a local advisor for Golf Pass in the Chicagoland area. So tell us a little bit about that. And I'm assuming that equates to playing more golf.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, right?
Yeah, right.
But you know, the whole 1,000 golf course kind of endeavor really didn't take off until maybe a few years ago. But you know, I started playing. I was 10 and played a lot in Central Illinois where I grew up, and then been fortunate to live in 3 kind of big metro areas the last 20 years. So my family lives out in Columbus, Ohio, and so you know, during my college formative years, would come back in the summers and would try to play as much in that area as possible, and then moved to Indy after college, and you know, played as many courses as I could there for several years, and then moving to Chicago, I started to realize as I was putting lists together, well, I've played a lot of golf courses, and so you know, it got to the point where it's like, okay, you know, I love the game, I love to play different courses and experience them, and then it kind of just started to snowball and just became one of those goals that I started to think about, and if I could get to that to be something really cool. So so just, you know, but I think I'm at 446, you know, and I just turned 38, so I've got a good trajectory so far.
I was actually just going to ask what that number was.
Yeah, so I'm a nerd, and I'm sure you're surprised, I keep a giant spreadsheet on it, and so I think I've played 100 new courses to me, I think, in the last 3 years.
Nice.
So and that's with little kiddos and work and all that and COVID, you know, combined. So I'm on a good trajectory. So hopefully we'll keep it going here. But in terms of Golf Pass, was fortunate to hook up with Brandon Tucker, who's the managing editor of you know, previously Golf Advisor, now Golf Pass, and he's a Hoosier graduate just like I am, and so while we've actually never met personally, he you know, they had a campaign to request local golf advisors, and so I sent in my petition to join, and really it's voluntary, and it's nothing other than, you know, I post a lot of reviews on Golf Advisor, now Golf Pass, and just kind of became one of those things that I enjoy. I love writing about courses and sharing my opinion, so it just seemed like a natural thing. And it's just where they would promote, you know, our reviews at the top of lists, you know, on Golf Pass, or I would contribute periodically to some of the articles about what was happening in Chicagoland in terms of public golf and even private golf courses. And, just another, just like Twitter, another avenue that I can, share my thoughts and feedback, and just really fun.
For sure. I mean, 100, 150 courses 100 courses in the last 3 years, you said?
Yeah, 100 new courses to me the last 3 years. That's probably, maybe I've played 115 rounds. So
Right.
a large percentage of those are new courses. So what I don't get when I play in terms of familiarity and knowing a lot of the greens and knowing where to hit or to miss it, I feel like I lose that, but I gain an experience and meet new people and being able to notch another course on the list.
For sure. I mean, playing a new track to me is probably the most exciting part about golf, because like you said, I think that mysteriousness of not knowing the course, there's something there behind it. But then also on the flip side of that, once the round's over, you're like, man, I would love to come back and play this course knowing what I know now. Do you feel like that's kind of the case at most places for you?
It is, and that's one of the reasons I take a lot of pictures. One, so I can go back and try to remember. When you play a lot of different courses, sometimes they all blur together. So,
Right.
Part of it is also just to share it on Twitter and as well. But for me, it's about there's a thrill about playing a course you don't know, and just kind of visualizing what you think it's going to look like, and then when you're there, did it meet that expectation or not? And ultimately, I always think about maybe the courses that I've only played once, but I'd love to get back to, and then would I have a different perspective? Would I play it differently or whatever? Would I experience things a little bit differently, even though it's the same course? To me, that's really fun. But there's definitely, Tom, an allure to, playing a course and seeing it for the first time, experiencing that, and then going back and determining, okay, would this be a place that I'd either want to invest the money in again, or befriend somebody, who may be a member there, et cetera, and try to work that angle and go back.
Yeah, 1,000%. So being from Columbus, I know there's a lot of really good golf in Columbus. Not sure about Indiana. I'm probably almost certain there is. But where does Chicagoland golf kind of stack up in your opinion? Not only in the Midwest, but with other U.S. cities. Do you think it's up there?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to play a lot in some of the large metro areas in the
Right.
Mid-Atlantic and out west. But in terms of the Midwest, I don't see how many cities could compare. I think just by sheer volume of courses in the greater Chicago, what do we have, like 300 and 350 public courses in like a 50-mile radius? I mean, it's crazy. So
Crazy.
just the variety, the ability to get to courses no matter where you live in Chicago. Even if you're downtown, right, you've probably got a 20-30 minute drive, and you've got some of the best values in the state. So
Right.
I think Chicagoland, just in terms of the overall variety, the accessibility, whether you're in the suburbs or not, and cost is relative to a point. I think that there's a lot of competition, which is a good thing. And even though we've seen a big boom, I don't think there's a lot of courses necessarily gouging or taking too much advantage of the interest in golf right now. But I loved Columbus and Indy, and they've got some great tracks, but Chicagoland, even having to spend a couple extra pennies to play a lot of the courses, it's worth it.
1,000%. Rob and I'm sure you're aware, Rob and I discuss all the time, aside from the big time courses that everybody talks about, your Cog Hills, your Cantigny's, your Glen Clubs, your Harborsides, we're big advocates of the hidden gems of the Chicagoland area. We love finding these little courses, out in the nooks, maybe out in the boonies, that a lot of guys are just, they haven't heard of before.
Right.
When they go and play that track, they're like, one, how did I not hear about this course? And then we have a lot of guys too that were like, this course is like 5 minutes from me, and I've never played it, and I'll be playing it, twice a week now. Like, what is like your biggest, your most, let's see, your top 3 hidden gems of the Chicagoland area?
Yeah, I think for me, even if you mentioned Cog Hill, the funny thing is that they've got one of the best value courses right there on site. It just is a dubs dread.
Yeah.
And Ravines, that's just a really fun course. The holes of 9, the par 5 going to the right, and then on 10, you got to hit the kind of mid iron approach shot over the ravine is just really cool. Just I think for the value, for the price is just awesome. I think if you're willing to drive up pretty far north, right towards the Wisconsin border, as scary as that may be, you've got Thunderhawk and Shepherd's Crook, both of them right there, and not everybody loves Robert Trent Jones Jr. like I do, but I think just Thunderhawk is a challenging golf course that to me is in great shape, and even at maybe $85-$89 rack rate, to ride on the weekends during the summers, I think it's still comparatively in the golf scene really good, and I think Shepherd's Crook has just some of the best greens, and it's just one of the most fun, nuanced golf courses in the area. And particularly when it's playing firm and fast and the wind picks up there, you may not find a more challenging golf course in the area. And and Ravislow is not a hidden gem, particularly because it's an older club and one that's been private and now gone public. But I think particularly if you're coming into town and you're not a native Chicagoan, and yes, you may gravitate towards the Dubs Dreads, or those that are maybe a little bit more notable or famous because they've had tour stops. I think stopping by Ravislow for maybe $77 is money well spent if you only have one day in Chicago.
For sure. And that's a great point, actually. So I'm in Oak Lawn, so I'm just, I'm 20 minutes away from Ravislow. Ravislow is like one of our, home tracks, so to speak. So we're fortunate to have that pretty close to us.
I wish it was closer to me. I'm up in Vernon Hills.
Okay.
So it's probably a good hour and 20 minutes on a good day to get down there. But
yeah,
so it's my own little vacation to go down to Ravislow. But I try to get out there once a year and play, and I'm still learning. There's kind of half hidden and half blind tee shots all the time. It always seems like right where my driver tends to end is where the vision of the hole ends, and so it's fun to kind of figure out exactly what angles to play and where the targets are and where you need to bump and run shots around the green. So I'm learning how to play that golf course better every time I play, but it's really fun.
It's so much fun. Go ahead, Rob.
So how far out do you have it mapped out for like next season already for the courses that you want to hit? Do you have a plan set?
Yeah, I do. For those that follow me, you've probably seen that I've gotten a little bit on the golf auction kick, and it's kind of out of character, honestly, for me, in that I've been such an advocate, obviously, for public golf and kind of a pushback on the golf snob and many of us. But it's one of those where COVID happened, and then I'm thinking, boy, a lot of these auctions are now coming online because they're not having them in person due to a lot of constraints, with social distancing, et cetera. So it's like, maybe this is my one time that I could bid on some auctions and play some courses that I may never be able to play, at some point. And so then I have kind of an addictive personality, and I won a few, and then it has kind of snowballed. So, I do have a list of the courses that I have either won auctions for, tend to play, and they're mostly private, but I've got an opportunity to play Conway next year.
Saw those pictures the other day.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I just put that out there yesterday. I've walked Conway because I've been to the BMW when it's been hosted there, but I've never had a chance to play there. So I'm looking forward to that. In terms of public wise, I'm excited to get back to the preserve at Oak Meadows. I've had an opportunity to actually meet with Greg Martin in person before and really love what he did there, and haven't seen the course now that's got the new clubhouse and some of the more, the updated amenities. So looking forward to get back there. I played in maybe the first spring they did it open. It was still fairly immature and kind of embryonic in its state. So looking forward to seeing it a little firmer and faster. So that's definitely one, that I want to get back to. I'm intrigued to see Schaumburg Golf Club and some of its revisions. I've heard really, really good things about it. So for me, it's about trying to get back to some of the courses that I maybe have played again once or twice before, was maybe a staple when I was playing more and more public golf in the area, and to see just how some of the courses have evolved over time.
Yeah, we just had our Northside Tour Championship at Schaumburg.
Okay, what'd you think?
That's in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was blown away. I mean, they really did a number on that place. I mean, even the little details like the sand, they brought in white sand. The course is immaculate. The greens were rolling super nice. It was just really well done. Well, you mentioned earlier Shepherd's Crook. So we're trying to get Shepherd's Crook on our 2022 schedule. Thunderhawk was on it. I haven't been out to Shepherd's Crook before, but I've heard it's unbelievable. And then the Preserve was on our schedule this past year. That's in fabulous shape. I mean,
Awesome.
yeah, the Preserve and Stonewall. I mean, I think those are probably two of my favorite Northside courses. They're just very well done, challenging. But yeah, we're super pumped. Hopefully we can get Shepherd's Crook on there, because I keep hearing, from our guys, the two biggest ones we're trying to add is, probably up your way is Shepherd's Crook and then Blackstone. Have you played there yet?
I've played Blackstone. So yeah, we're doing a lot of shout outs to Bob Lohman. But I played it now, to be fair, it's probably been 8 or 10 years maybe since I've played. It was one of those that I got a Golf Now deal several years ago and tried to get some buddies to go out, and they go, Tweeter, this is a little far for me. So it was, so I actually went up by myself and got paired up with some folks, but like just thought the amenities really nice. Clubhouse was great, just a cool bar area. And then the course was really fun. So I think it's again another one of those that is a nice hidden gem that a lot of people don't talk about, just because there's so much attention played to some of the mainstays. But that's another great one. I just haven't been out there in a long time. So if you guys get out there, I'll try to sign up and play along with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, even though your buddies, didn't want to tag along, you just went ahead and went. I mean, that's
that's me. I'll travel and go anywhere, and I'll I'm the recruiter and the sales guy in me, but I'll hang out with anybody to play. As long as you're not a toolbox, and then I'll play with anybody. So
yeah, I mean that's Rob and I. I mean, we're willing to go anywhere, play anywhere. To your point earlier, just like for me, I play Ravislow probably about 10 times a year. So there's a point where it gets like, okay, well, other people like, Rob's from out west. So if Rob came in, I'd be like, yeah, let's go play Ravislow for sure. But, I'm at the point where it's like, well, I'm Ravislowed out. Like I want to go play. I want to go find a new track that, even if, like we just played Whitetail Ridge about a month ago. I've never been out there.
I've never been out there either.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it was exceptional. It's probably it was about a 45-minute ride from me. But I was blown away. I thought it was really well done. The clubhouse is immaculate. It's like an old, it reminds me of like an old hunting cabin, but like very modern, huge outdoor brick fireplace and a huge patio, really cool bar. It was really well done. So yeah, that's another one we're thinking about adding. We're just trying to extend our reach around the Chicagoland area, and hopefully we're going to be bringing in some courses from out your way. So,
well, awesome. No, and if you ever need help getting on a White Deer Run, it's the home course for me. Okay. And so it's funny, although I say that, I don't think I've played White Deer Run this year. It's just one of those where it's right there, and I go to the driving range, probably not as much as I should, which is why the handicap hasn't gone down. But that's another one that's a good one to play, and it's fun. And I may or may not get out and hit a couple chips by the sixth green every once in a while, since I'm right across the street. But yeah, it's a gluttony of great places here on the north side. And you mentioned south side and west side too. I mean, just there's so many great places within a stone's throw, depending on where you live.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for us, because I'm kind of southeast, so even to jump the border into Indiana, play the Palmyras and the Whitehawks, those are solid tracks. If depending on how you're feeling that day, you could even shoot up to Lake Michigan Hills or like a Sandy Pines. So There's so much
I've
golf.
played Sandy Pines, which is a really underrated course.
Yeah.
They redid it maybe 5-10 years ago, and I played it right after they did it. Kind of got that Pine Valley,
Yeah.
kind of poor man's Pine Valley feel to it. Was really cool. That's one that I always try to promote on Twitter as much as I can, just because I think it. I've only been there a couple of times, but nice staff. They just seem to do a good job. It's a great price and good shape. So,
Yeah.
there's no need to go, necessarily spend $200 at a golf course when you can go to Sandy Pines for
Yep.
a fourth of that.
Yeah.
There's another course right at the border. I'm blanking on the name. I've only played it once, but it's maybe it's Chesterton out that way. But it's got some crazy few first holes that are really hard.
Lost Marsh.
Lost Marsh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which again kind of depends on how you're feeling.
Yeah.
But if your game's in good shape, that'd be one to maybe give it a try. But holy moly, I've only played it once, and it was like 25-mile-an-hour winds, and it was just a bear. and we still had fun, but it was not one that I would recommend playing in like April when you've gotten 2 rounds in and you're going to try to test the game out. I would, no offense to Lost Marsh, but maybe try that in July once the game's in order.
Yeah, I caught a lot of heat for that at the end of the year. A couple guys threw that out there for a suggestion. To me, I think it's a little gimmicky. Like you said, those first like 5 or 6 holes, it's just like I love the opening hole. The opening hole is super cool. I'll even give the next number 2, the par 3. That's a pretty good hole, but like 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm just like, come on. I mean, like you said, it's
the par 3, the par 5 when you've got a clear hazards twice.
Yeah.
And then there's also water on both sides,
Yeah.
It's I mean, you might as well just write 8 on the scorecard and get a better pace of play. And I think too, speaking of pace of play, it's just a little bit of a challenge, when you've got groups that are stacked up looking for balls or dropping every other shot. But almost I wish that they flipped the 9s, perhaps it may even be a better rounding and a better experience. So maybe the folks that be listening to the podcast and they'll
I actually, now that you say that, I think they did do that like maybe
really?
Yeah, like 15 years ago. I think they switched them for whatever reason, but that sounds familiar to me.
That's 7 Bridges too, though. They flipped their 9s too.
Yeah, a lot of courses. I mean, even like Calumet did that, and I still don't really understand that. When you come off like the 16th, I feel like you walk past the Calumet clubhouse like 4 different times, and you're not even.
And I've not played that one, and I know that there's been rumors and undertones about a potential sale there for years, but it seems like COVID's been a benefit to them perhaps because it's getting more play. But that's one when you mentioned trying to get to maybe next year. That's one on the hit list on the public side that I would love to do. And then, and if I can carve out another 18 holes, then it's a good excuse to get to Ravenscliffe. I've already made the hike. So
I was just going to say,
what do you guys think of Calumet?
I used to enjoy it more when it was private. As snobby as that may sound, nowadays it's definitely more leisurely. Like you just basically come and go, as you please. And prior to them going public, it was in really, really good shape. Obviously, it took a beating as soon as it went public. The greens got really chewed up, and then just from the maintenance, business standpoint, it kind of just went downhill. I know, like you mentioned, the group that owns them is actually out of, I think, Vegas. So I think that had a lot to do with it. Maybe prior owners just kind of took a step back and everything just kind of fell off. And this new company came in from Vegas, and simply it seemed like they were just kind of managing it until it eventually sold. But I know it went through a couple of different contracts and still hasn't sold yet. So overall, I think it's definitely a solid course. It's definitely got that old Chicago Parkland style. It reminds me a lot of like maybe in a very old Bev, just kind of the layout and how tight, some of the holes were, but I think to your point, I think if you made a day of it and played Cal and then Ravislow, I mean, you can't go wrong there.
Well, yeah, I'd be probably 6 to 8 balls less, but that's not a bad day's work.
Right. When you play, do you see yourself gravitating towards a certain designer here and there? Like, I know you mentioned Robert Trent Jones, but like, do you feel like once you're done playing, even when you're going into a course, are you like, I'm probably going to like this course just because of the designer?
Yeah, I think there's a natural bias, right, that comes with that. When I grew up, I mean, I pretty much played on 1980s and 90s Prairie Lane courses just because that's what was built, and so I didn't have a lot of exposure to kind of more your old school traditional Parkland courses. So I think as I've gotten older and played more of them and gotten exposed to some of the private club atmosphere too, I think that's been really fun to kind of experience that and kind of figure out what you like. But with that, a lot of the courses are now taking out trees and making things more accessible. So it's kind of fun to see the kind of the balance that comes with that, and some of your historic clubs that are now reinvesting in and making it more playable.
Yeah.
To answer your question, so locally, I'm a big fan of Rick Jacobson. The work that he did at Sunset Valley was really nice, and they took what was it still is a Park District course, but one that I'd played a bunch. My wife's family's worked at Highland Park for years, and so was exposed to that, and always thought it was a good parcel of land, but just it wasn't a great course. But what Rick did there was really cool. I like what he did at his original design at Bowes Creek is another really nice one.
Yep.
He's got some good courses just throughout the Midwest. So Rick's one that kind of the radar goes up when I see that he's made a renovation or done some restoration work there. I tend to gravitate towards your 90s kind of modern design. Just visually, I like what Robert Trent Jones Jr. does with his bunkers and how he places trees throughout his courses strategically and a lot more angles, maybe too many at Thunderhawk sometimes for my liking. But that's another designer that I tend to really enjoy. And then David Essler is somebody that has done some work here. I love his Black Sheep, which is a 27-hole private course way far out west, but he's done work restoring some courses. Mount Prospect was really fun to play if you're okay with having 40 putzing around. And then I mentioned Greg Martin earlier, which I think he doesn't get his due in terms of his design work, both his original designs. I think you mentioned Whitetail Ridge. That may have been a Martin design, to be honest. I'm not sure. But I think Greg's done some really great work here, restoring some courses and doing some renovations and modernizing them. So all those designers that I mentioned, particularly those that are kind of local to Chicago and have an affinity for this area, I think are ones that stand out for me.
Absolutely. Huge fan of Sunset. Also, Rob and I are both really big fans of Bowes Creek.
Oh yeah.
That's one.
Yeah, I don't think Bowes Creek gets enough due here in Chicagoland. I was just writing out my list of my favorite courses in the area, prior to this call, and I think Bowes Creek is a top 5 public course in the area. I just think it's fantastic. It's got kind of that rugged feel. It's got some more elevation up and down, typically for a Chicago course. I think the green complexes they're tough, but they're not so overbearing that your 25 handicap can enjoy themselves. I think it's just got everything that you'd want. It's been a couple of years since I've played, but I try to get out there as much as I can. It's just a little bit of a hike now from where I live, but as I said, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's my first time playing it was this past year, and
Same here.
I fell in love with it. Had a little bit of resemblance of Heritage Bluffs, I felt like.
Yeah. Heritage. Again, that's another one I haven't been to in years. I used to work a lot in Indianapolis and Peoria, and so I try to catch that on the crossing I-80 and kind of getting in the outskirts of Chicago. But it's got a similar, very more unique terrain, I think, for Chicagoland compared to some of the other courses. So
Yeah.
I think Rick does a really good job with making the courses interesting, maybe a little bit more strategic than some of the modern designers out there that are just more plugging holes into a residential area. I think he does a really nice job.
Absolutely. What in terms of, just the surrounding areas? So you got, or I should say the surrounding states. So, a lot of people obviously go into Michigan, Wisconsin, even even up in the Quad Cities or just before the Quad Cities and Silvis there and TBC Deer Run.
Right.
Where do you think, in your opinion, is the best place to go for a golf, a fairly local golf buddies trip?
Yeah. For those that follow me on Twitter, probably know that I take a band of fraternity brothers out every year. I'm kind of I call myself the golf course or the golf trip dictator.
Yeah.
And so this will be our 14th year that we go out. We've predominantly done the Midwest. We did Alabama, Birmingham, the Trent Jones Trail for our 10th anniversary of the trip. But otherwise, we stay in the Midwest. So, I personally, I love Northern Michigan. I don't know if you can get a better, deal and just for the views and the money and the experience there. From Chicagoland, it's probably a 7 hour, trek. So maybe a little far. I think, Rob, your hat, I think, is probably the best, at Sand Valley is probably the best. Yeah. The best experience, and I think it's going to continue to become the Bandon of the Midwest. Just the feel, just the vibe that you get from Sand Valley. It's non-pretentious. They treat everybody like equals there, and it's pricey. But I think if you can catch Sand Valley, in April or October, when it's a little less expensive, and you can also catch a couple courses nearby. There's the Lake Arrowhead courses right next door. That's pretty nice. There's kind of a different feel. They're more woodland, parkland layouts. Century World that I think is going to reopen next year in preparation for a senior major out there, maybe 30, 45 minutes away. So you can incorporate Sand Valley into a bigger buddies trip if you want. I'm a big fan of Lake Geneva. Yeah. So maybe only 90 minutes from Chicagoland, maybe 2 hours at the most, how much traffic you hit. But, Geneva National is great. They've made a lot of investment in their lodging and to make it a little bit more of an upscale, buddies trip experience. I like, Grand Geneva. I'm not as big a fan of the Brute as maybe some others comparatively in the area. I think it's just too hard. So it's aptly named, but it's really tough, particularly if you're bringing some guys that are newer to the game or just struggle.
So you like the Highlands better?
I like the Highlands better. And just in terms of an experience, I think there's a little bit more kind of risk reward and go for broke holes there. You've got there's the downhill par 5 that I think you can hit 2 if you get a couple of big hooks that I've hit, and then proceeded to three putt. I think every time I've hit it in 2. There's just, I think that it's more interesting. The Brute is kind of like Dubsbrid, where if you're feeling good about the game, you're like, okay, can I actually improve my handicap here, at this type of course? It depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to have fun and just enjoy the round, I would definitely go with the Highlands. But the Brute is just that, and it's one you've got to experience. But I like Hawksview, which is a 36-hole club that's nearby that area.
Don't they have that par 3 too?
Yeah, they've got an 18-hole regulation course there, which actually is probably the best quartet of par 3s that they in that course in the whole area. Really cool, some downhill par 3s that are really nice. And then they've got the par 3 course that is no slouch. It's I think a good way to finish up a day if you've got a couple extra hours. I definitely encourage that. And then I'm intrigued to see what Lohman and his team does at Abbey Springs. Yeah. I've only played Abbey once, and it's hard, and it's a really nice, pretty woodland golf course. But you could feel kind of claustrophobic with all the trees kind of coming in there, and so I think they're bulldozing a bunch of trees and making it more accessible. So I think that'd be just another notch on the Lake Geneva area there that I highly recommend. And then my last plug, I guess would be if you're willing to drive a little bit or you're okay into flying into Minneapolis, would be Brainerd. Minnesota. We did that trip maybe 2 or 3 years ago and did, the classic at Madden's. We did Deacon's Lodge, which I think is actually by far the best course there. And then the legacy courses at Cragun's, they're actually doing a redo there to put 45 holes in, where right now it's only 36. So Tom Lehman's doing a renovation there. So I think that as they continue to invest in that area is just another one that, for the money, if you're okay with a little bit of an outskirts type of trip, would be a great one to go to.
Yeah. How far is that looking like, that trip? I've heard that trip is very sneaky good.
Yeah, it's from like where I am, north side of Chicago, it's probably a 7.5 hour drive, but again, if you're okay with flying a little bit, a flight from ORD to MSP is 45 minutes, and then maybe a 2.5 hour drive from the airport. So depends on how much logistics you want to do. I think they've even got like vans that they'll drive back and forth, from that area. So you could even just fly in, not worry about driving, and they'll van you around all the way from the airport up to Brainerd. So I highly recommend it. I mean, it's got kind of a northern Michigan feel. It just happens to be Minnesota Northwoods, and bang for the buck is as good as anything we've played.
Right. Is it pretty remote? Like, obviously not as remote as like Abandon, but like you said, there's not much in between the airport and the course.
It's pretty remote, yeah. And so, I mean, you'd have to be comfortable with knowing that there's not a lot of other entertainment and things to do in that area. I mean, we stayed in a house right across the street at the legacy courses at Cragun's, and then just ate dinner and had fun afterwards, just at the local bars and restaurants that are right there. So there's not a lot of big city feel there, but that's kind of our style anyway. A lot of the guys are from downtown and want to get out and not feel like the hustle and bustle of a big city. And this is a good kind of remote area where guys can just hang out and play poker and light up fire or something in the back and just have a good time. And the Minnesota Northwoods are a really good place to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think you get any better than kind of just going off with the boys, real quiet, remote. That, at least for me, I think Rob too. Yeah, that's more of kind of our speed. How was your trip actually to Big Cedar?
So Big Cedar was a blast. We've actually been out kind of in the Ozarks in that area twice, and I took the boys out. I think our 5th year, it was 2013. It was like mid-July, and we were just dying. It was like 110 degrees, and so I joked that if I was going to take them back, I'd learn my lesson. So I said, "Yeah, well, I'll take you in early June, and it'll be fine." And it was 110 degrees again, and I particularly one day had too much to drink and was feeling the wrath of that one of the days. But but Big Cedar is awesome. I mean, it is where Sand Valley is, a little bit more nuanced and has just kind of that laid back feel. Think of the opposite, right? With what Johnny Morris has done there. It's like one of the guys joked and said, "This is like a Disney park."
It is,
but for golfers, and it really is. So that may not be the type of thing that everybody's looking for. That some people's palates may not like that in terms of golf, but to me, the whole experience is what I look for, right? Yes, it's expensive and it's probably overpriced, but you're also getting the views and you're getting the conditions and just world-class service that comes with that. So we had an absolute blast. We actually liked the Buffalo Ridge, kind of the original Tom Fazio course that was previously called Branson Creek. We liked it the best. We just thought that the combination of conditions, the views, were really good. Paynes Valley was great. It was almost too easy off the tee. It was very broad. It had kind of a Mammoth Dunes feel to it, right? In terms of it, it being very receptive out in the fairways. Just the greens were its defense. And it's just got some maturing, I think, to do. But it's a cool experience. And with the par 3 courses, they were a blast. Ozarks National is probably actually architecturally the best course there. A lot of the guys don't see it that way comparatively to sometimes where I do, but you can't go wrong there. It's money well spent. If there's anything that I would recommend to Big Cedar, and I think that they're making some changes and some improvements is there's the logic for bigger groups. Like I bring a group of 12 typically every year. It's not really conducive to that. We stayed off site. There's some great VRBOs and Airbnbs that you can go and since all the courses are acceptable they're accessible to the public, you can. But to me, we like to stay on site if at all possible and eliminate some of the driving back and forth. So I think that's just an opportunity as they continue to grow and expand that they can add to the package.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Even with the courses, our group thought Buffalo Ridge is by far the most fun. It kind of reminded us of courses around here. That parking style is just altogether is just a very enjoyable, fun course. Hands down, Ozarks National from a design perspective was unbelievable. I mean, all of the contour of the fall offs of the false fronts of the greens and how they kept with the actual contour of the mountains and didn't try to change anything with that was awesome. And then Paynes was fun. I agree. It almost came off as like touristy just because maybe how easy it was, although my score didn't reflect that. So the greens, like you said, were still maturing. They were hard as a rock, but they're awesome.
Yeah. It was
beautiful.
in great shape. I mean, considering how young of a course it is, we thought the fairways were pristine.
Yeah.
We liked that some of the holes, at least from the tees that we played, like the 6,500-yard ones, that you could go for some of the greens and it was fun. There were some really good holes. There just wasn't those you look back on that we thought were just great holes. And I think Buffalo Ridge had like 9 of them. And I think there's just something about the feel of Buffalo Ridge and the trees, but it's still being very playable. You didn't feel like there was anybody else on the golf course, than you when you played. And I like that type of feeling. Paynes is just a different experience, right? Some guys are going to love it. It is touristy.
Yeah.
The views that you get on the first tee and just looking over the entire expansive landscape of really the whole resort. I mean, you can see almost all the holes of Buffalo Ridge, on the first tee at Paynes Valley. So, I mean, to each their own. I would encourage everybody to go and play all 5 courses at Big Cedar and, Branson Hills and Ledgestone and probably a few others that I haven't even played to really get out there. So that's another one that I highly recommend. It's probably a 7-hour drive, 8-hour drive from Chicagoland. We flew into Springfield and there was like two planes, that were there. It was easy, just to fly into if that's your deal.
Yeah, we so to your point also, we found out about some of the bigger cabins that are like tucked away on site after the fact that we were there. We weren't really aware of them. But same, I think we had a group of 8. So the lodging was okay, but like you said, it's nice to have a house, with just the guys and be on site. And I think they've opened up to that a little bit more. I think they've even built some more cabins for that reason. So that's something to look forward to. And then the whole airport. So actually one of our buddies works for United, and while we were there, he said his boss actually got wined and dined down there. They're trying to bring United into Brainerd opposed to Springfield. So if that happens, then you're talking about essentially a 10-minute drive from the airport. So that would be
that would be interesting, right? And I think I know Sam Valley's trying to position that for some more commercial flights potentially going into their local airport. I think as some of these resorts continue to get more robust and there's a demand,
right,
and golf continues to boom, I think that we'll hopefully continue to see that. So I'm all for it. If I can save the now $500 it is for a week with a rental car, then I'm all game. But and one thing I was going to say is I think that resorts that really invest in some of those bigger lodging, I'm sure there's an economics to it as to a reason why not to. But I think that to me that's the most fun. While we've done some of the trips where we've gotten 4 or 5 different condos and 3 or 4 guys are in each one, everybody kind of then does their own thing, or getting everybody together is really cool. And not to begrudge or talk down to some resorts, but like we haven't gone to French Lick really for that reason. When I've called to try to book things, they couldn't even guarantee if we were going to be on the same floor in a hotel. And so to me, that really devalues the trip. Even at Kohler, while I've heard it's great, and I've not played any of the Kohler courses, that's another challenge. Is what kind of lodging is set up there? Can you get everybody together? And to me, if I had the $1 billion and was running a resort, I would try to invest in as much of those bigger kind of buddies trip environments as possible, because to me that's what's going to drive a lot of revenue. I figure whatever they may lose out on some of the per person revenue we gain back on buying beer, food and stuff there. So to me, it's the same difference.
1,000%, totally agree. That's half the battle, and staying with your guys, the camaraderie, just kind of busting each other's chops all weekend. Like that's what it's all about. Waking up in the morning, having breakfast, or coming home and grilling steaks, on the grill out at night on the patio. Yeah. Everybody's together. That's part of the trip. So I 100% agree with you. Not staying on the same floor or even in the same condo, that gets a little dicey,
Well, yeah, I've got a reputation to uphold too, so I can't afford to lose that. Sorry, Rob. Good.
No, I was gonna say, because we do Grand Geneva the last couple of years. There's about 20 of us that do it, and like you're saying, you're on separate floors. But the nice thing about Grand Geneva is that they have their chop house there, so you all meet up after the round and you get to hang out and everything. But we've done trips too that we've rented houses or barns, and those are way better.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical of kind of the Airbnb process, particularly with the golf trip, because you just don't know, what they're going to be like. But the several trips we've now done it, and it's scored big points with the guys, and the houses have been great. And so there's still a risk that comes with it. There's also a risk, staying at the resort. There's times where we've gotten actually bumped, from the condos, and moved to different rooms last minute and all that too. So there's always a risk that comes with that. But to me, the biggest thing that I look at is, how many guys can we fit, in either one unit or the least amount of units possible. So we've got the camaraderie, and two, what's the quality of the courses, and at the end of it all, most of the guys, they don't even care about the golf. At the end of the day, they just care about, seeing each other. And a lot of times this is their one vacation that they go on. So to me, splitting a bunch of people out or provide an opportunity that they may not be able to interact or see, as many of their friends as they want. That's just a showstopper for me. That is the reason why you go, and golf, maybe just a few rounds of golf might have.
Absolutely. Well, we know you're a busy guy there, Bryan. So we'll let you go here. We want to know, though, what is the number one course that you've ever played?
It is Pinehurst number 2. So a little story around that is my grandfather, God rest his soul, but he worked at Abbott for years and then retired in 1996 and became a member at Pinehurst, and was able to play that course on Christmas morning, 1998. So it would have been the Christmas before they had the first U.S. Open there. And I was maybe 14 years old, and didn't quite understand the scale of, I think, what I was doing. I'd heard of Pinehurst, obviously knew it was a great course, but fell in love with the game. Then it was just my favorite round, and to play with my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle. And my uncle was making putts as the Christmas church bells were going off, and we all played pretty well. So it was just a blast. So I have not been back to play number 2 after the Core and Crenshaw restoration. So, and my parents still have the condo there, so there's really no excuse other than having to pay the $500 to play. But to me, that's probably still be money well spent. So I'm hoping to get back there here in the next couple of years and try it out again. So, but Pinehurst is kind of my happy place. So, so gonna have to get back there.
Keep hearing that. We're gonna have to get out there ourselves. I actually have a wedding, my cousin in North Carolina, in June. So we're actually talking about making the trek. So we'll see. But no, we appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Great to talk some golf, and more than happy to jump on any time. And hopefully we'll see each other out there on the course in the spring and summer.
Oh yeah, we'll put something together. We'll get out, and in the meantime, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and yeah, thanks for coming on there, Bryan.
Likewise,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Be safe.
Another great guest, because he's got so much insight and knowledge of courses around here and designers, and you could just tell he's a very passionate golfer. He really enjoys what he does, and so for me, I mean, Bryan's right up my alley.
Yeah, like I said, it's nice to hear about other buddies' trips. To get an idea of what else could be out there or what else you can plan for the future.
Yeah.
All right, the top three this week is around the same theme. So, what are your top three golf Twitter follows?
I like how you did that there.
Yeah,
I like that. So, top three Twitter follows. I would probably have to go. Number 3 is probably Lou Stegner.
okay.
Big
stats guy.
Big stats guy.
Big stats guy.
Yeah, I just enjoy seeing what he puts out in terms of expectations, and he's a big Tiger guy. So I could jump on that boat all day. Number 2, this might throw you for a loop here, but I love the Club Pro.
So, that's he's like my number 4. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the Club Pro, I mean, I just get a kick out of him. As stupid as his posts are, some of them I'll just scroll past and I'll have to scroll back up to him, and then I just start dying laughing because it's insane. And then number 1, I would probably have to say, I don't know, man. That's hard. I might go a totally different route than you're thinking, but I might go Phil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would say Phil, or actually, you know what? I'm not going to give Phil the credit. I'll probably go Max Homa.
He is good.
Yeah,
he was number 5 for me too.
Yeah, those guys are hilarious. I mean, I think any one of those guys, like a Max, Kiz, Henry Higgs, any one of those guys could probably be. But I mean, the fact that Max just roasts people in their swing, probably give it to him for sure.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I am a Westwood guy, but I'm a huge Spieth guy. So 3-hole is the Spieth tracker. I love him when he's playing. I think it's great.
Hold on, real
quick.
Shane. Who do you think runs that?
I do not know. I don't know.
I mean, it has to be like somebody in his camp, right?
Someone close, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I think all those, they have some type of network, right? I couldn't even guess, to be honest with you, but I do enjoy his tweets during the live rounds. They're great.
Yeah.
Especially when Jordan gets on his runs with the chip-ins and whatnot. They're great. 2, I got to go Shane Bacon. I've always liked Shane Bacon a lot. And number 1, he's a stats guy, but I like him a lot, is Justin Ray.
Yeah, Justin Gray's really good.
Yeah. So that's my top 3.
It's a solid top 3. All right. Well, until next time, that wraps up episode 8, and we'll see you in the fairway, Rob.
See you in the fairway, Tom.
See you, buddy.